We acknowledge the Whadjuk elders as the traditional custodians of the land on which we are meeting today, and we thank them for their continued connection and care to the ecosystems of the land and waterways of this country, which has enabled ceremonies to take place for thousands of years and now enables us to join this custom. Today's smoking ceremony will be conducted by Whadjuk elder Uncle Nick Abraham. Thank you.
So Karya Wanju, Nanjup Nunut Jinning, Nanjum Nunut Warking. Hello and welcome. I'm happy to see you all here this morning, but also happy to be speaking with you this morning. As mentioned, my name is Nick Abraham, and my family connections are Abraham, Bernal, Humphrey, Hume, Mippy, Worrell, Nettle, Harris. And we're connected in many parts of Yunga country, but most importantly, Whadjuk, which is the budget we're sitting on here today. So Nijin Yunga Budja, Nijin Yunga Warking. So this is Yunga country, this is the Yunga language that I'm speaking. Corona la Kubang, Nar Yunga Mort Yunga Bridia, Corona Jamurich Wanchining, Donut Chining. So I'm just acknowledging the ancient land and the ancient language, but also acknowledging my elders past, present and emerging, but also acknowledging you of being here today. Being here today to give me an opportunity to tell a bit of history of this country that you may or may not be aware of. And to tell you this story, I'm going to take you back about 65 plus thousands of years. But I've only got about 3 or 4 minutes to tell you that story. So hopefully you would walk with me on this journey. And the story I'm going to tell you about is not about blame. It is not about shame. It's about understanding of the history of this country that we're all standing and sitting on here today. So Nurukut Mort Dima Marna Yunga Bridia Korokora. So when Yunga people were given our knowledge through the oral tradition, as passed down from our grandmothers, our grandfathers, our mums, our dads, and the Yunga bosses from long, long ago. And when they told us these ancient stories, they usually told these stories around the campfire. And some of the stories that they told us about were some of our values. And some of our values, just to give you a little bit of understanding of our values. And the very first thing they taught us about was our mort. Our mort is family. Mum, dad, nan, pop, uncle, aunties, brothers, sisters. All our extended families and the different levels of relationships and responsibilities to each and every one of those. But that was also one of our laws of who we could and couldn't marry. We couldn't marry our close bloodlines. We had to keep our genetics strong. And we still have a system in place at how it's functioning today of how we maintain our strong genetics. Next, the old fellows taught us about our culture. What is culture? I'm going to give you a couple of definitions what I think culture is. You may agree and you may even add your own. For me, culture is about values. Culture is also about language. And through that language, it gives us your identity and your belonging and your beliefs and your spirituality. Next, the old fellows taught us about our cardigan. Now, cardigan's our knowledge system where the old people understood the new relationship between the sun, stars, moon, plants, animals, the environment. And next, the old fellows taught us about our court wear. Court is the art, wearing is the spirit. Bring them together, it's our well-being. And our old people taught us about our foods, our medicines, our sites, our ceremonies, our social interactions and responsibilities. And they knew when we were out of balance physically and emotionally how to connect with all this system to bring us back into balance. And that was a health system. And the old people taught us that these key elements are connected to our budja, our land, because they knew if we look after country, country would look after us. And this one here represents our British, our elders, because it was their responsibility to overlook the system and making sure that our laws and our customs are never broken. And that system was functioning on this land for many thousands of generations, where the sun would always rise in the east and set in the west. The moon would eventually rise in the east and set in the west. And when our people pass and they leave this place, they go to the next part of the dreaming, a place called Karanup, which is over the west where the sun sets. And the only time that ever return is in our dreams and our subconscious to give us guidance and support of maintaining our tools and customs. Unfortunately, something happened in the early 1800s. Some people came and they saw this system and they ignored this system. And they imposed new laws and customs on my people. And immediately we had disruptions to our elders and our British and our government system. We had disruptions to our mort and our families. We had disruption to our culture and our language. We had disruption to our knowledge system of how we looked after this land. All of a sudden, we had no say in how our land was being divided up. And we had disruption to our court wind because we couldn't get access to our sites for our foods and our medicines and our ceremonies and social interaction and responsibilities in our homes because all of a sudden we were trespassing, no disrespect, on Crown land and private property. And these key things disconnected us from our budja. And that's where my community is today, picking up the pieces of this disconnection and disruption. Now, I'd just like to acknowledge that this disconnection and disruptions happened in many places in the world, long before it arrived here and long after it arrived here. In fact, it's happening in the world today. And we only have to look at the morning and evening news to see where there's disruptions happening in many other parts of the world. I'm not going to talk about the impacts of colonisation out of my country, culture, people, values, responsibilities and purpose. So despite all this recent disruption, my people's spirits are still here. Despite all this recent disruption, our spirit stories are still here. Throughout this disruption, many others have come, and my ancestors will be angry with me as I'm bringing people and welcome people to this part of country. And the next part of the process is the smoking ceremony. And the smoking ceremony I'm going to explain as we go back through as I walk down here. And hopefully this microphone will come on as I walk down, if I can get it out of my pocket. Testing 1, 2, lovely. So as I mentioned, the smoking is a very important part of our ceremony. And the smoking lets country know that we are here. That we are here, and we're telling country that we're here, and our ancestors that we are here, and we mean no harm. But it also lets us know, and telling country, of the things that are important to us, and our relationships and our responsibilities going forward into the future. And that smoking is also a very important part of letting that negative energy move on. Asking that negative energy to move on and invite positive energy. So when I do the smoking, I say, Warawiran, Warawiran. Negative energy, leave us now. And we invite the positive energy to come slowly and walk with us. And help us to open our eyes and our ears and our head and our heart to understand and appreciate what was, what is, but also what could be. And hopefully we'll walk on that journey together of what could be for all Western Australians and all Australians. So I want to thank you, and again I want to say Mama Jinanala Yaburai Jini as I ask for the film to come through. Thank you.
Thank you, Uncle Nick and Seaman musician Grant Rosell. We also acknowledge special guests who are with us today, Mrs Magenta Marshall, MLA, State Member for Rockingham, representing the Honourable Paul Papalia, CSC MLA. Ms Nova Peris, OAM, Arafura's ship sponsor, and members from the Fremantle, Coburn, Kwinana and Rockingham City Councils. We're also fortunate to have former Chief of Navy Vice Admiral Chris Smith, AO RAN, with us this morning, as well as senior naval officers, so a special welcome to you all. Today, we are commissioning Arafura. The tradition of commissioning a ship predates the formation of the first European Royal Navies. In the days before they had their own fleets, royalty would charter or commission ships from private owners to wage battle or search for new trade routes. The operational life of a warship is measured by the time it spends in commission. Some ships enjoy long, sustained commissions, while the lives of other ships and submarines are punctuated by several shorter commissions, usually due to major refits or docking cycles. What all ships have in common is when they are in commission, they fly a distinctive white pennant bearing a red St. George's cross located at the masthead to indicate their status. Known as the commissioning pennant, it is a vital indicator that the ship is in service, and it is normally only displaced by a royal standard, a senior officer's broad pennant or distinguishing flag. Throughout the life of any ship, there is a constant turnover of personnel who, together as a crew, share the challenges and achievements of their ship. It is the crew that breathes life into any warship, and it is fair to say that it is the performance and bearing of a crew that gives any ship its reputation. Arafura is the first of a projected 6 Arafura-class offshore patrol vessels to be built in Australia by German shipbuilder Lursen Australia, based on the PV-80 design. Built in South Australia in partnership with the Australian Submarine Corporation OPV shipbuilder, Arafura has been designed with a need to be versatile and adaptable to a variety of mission sets. The OPV design will support specialist mission packages such as maritime tactical unmanned aerial system, and into the future, rapid environmental assessment and deployable mine countermeasure capabilities. The primary role of the OPV will be to undertake constabulary missions, maritime patrol and response duties to operate alongside Australian Border Force vessels and other Australian Defence Force units and regional partners. The focus on civil maritime security operations and regional engagement in the Southwest Pacific and maritime Southeast Asia. Arafura was laid down on the 10th of May 2019 and launched on the 16th of December 2021 at a formal ceremony at the Osborne Naval Shipyard in South Australia. During the launching ceremony, water drawn from the pristine waters of the Arafura Sea, collected and blessed by elders of the Meningreta community, was also used to connect ship to country. And in 2022, crew members of Arafura visited the Meningreta community during a visit to the Arafura region. Arafura recently completed a number of sea trials prior to being accepted by the Commonwealth of Australia on the 31st of January 2025. Arafura is based out of Perth, Western Australia, and her commissioning sponsor is former Olympian and politician Miss Nova Peris, OAM. I'm Commander Cassandra Mohap, Director of Navy Music and Ceremonial, and I'll be leading you through this morning's commissioning ceremony. We will formally welcome onto the parade 4 guests this morning: Commander Australian Fleet, Rear Admiral Christopher Smith, AM CSC RAN, the Chief of the Royal Australian Navy, Vice Admiral Mark Hammond, AO RAN, Minister for Veterans Affairs, Minister for Defence Personnel representing the Deputy Prime Minister, the Honourable Matt Keogh, MP, and our guest of honour, the Governor of Western Australia, His Excellency, the Honourable Christopher Dawson, AC APM. I'll ask you all to stand, and members in uniform are required to salute on the Guard Commander's orders for the arrival of our official guests. The music for today's ceremony will be provided by the Royal Australian Navy Band Western Australia and musicians of the Royal Australian Navy Band Sydney under the musical direction of Lieutenant Commander Stokes. There's no need to stand just yet, ladies and gentlemen. I'll give you your cue, don't worry. To commence today's proceedings, our Parade Marshal, Chief Petty Officer Jerome Donald, will give the order to march on Arafura's ship's company. The ship's company is now formed. Would you please give a warm welcome to our parade commander, who is the Executive Officer of Arafura, Lieutenant Cameron Morgan. Lieutenant Cameron Morgan joined the Royal Australian Navy as a Maritime Warfare Officer on the 24th of January 2019 from Brisbane, Queensland. Lieutenant Morgan has conducted multiple deployments during his time in the Royal Australian Navy, including Operation Resolute, Operation Render Safe, Indo-Pacific 21 and Operation Vanuatu Assist 23. Lieutenant Morgan has participated in a wide variety of multinational cooperative exercises, including Talisman Sabre 21, Large-Scale Global Exercise 21, Regional Presence Deployments 21, 22 and 23, and Exercise Rim of the Pacific 2022. During his career, Lieutenant Morgan has posted to His Majesty's Australian ships Maitland and Canberra and assumed the position of Executive Officer New Ship Arafura in October 2024. Our Parade Marshal, Chief Petty Officer Jerome Donald, will now hand over control of the commissioning to our Parade Commander, Lieutenant Cameron Morgan.
Very good.
We now welcome the Commissioning Guard led by Guard Commander Lieutenant Jared McMullen. Lieutenant McMullen is a Maritime Warfare Officer and joined the Royal Australian Navy in 2019. Our Parade Commander Lieutenant Cameron Morgan will now give the order to march on the Commissioning Guard.
March on the commissioning guard! Aye, aye, sir. Guard! By the centre! Quick! Guard! Halt! Guard! Into line. Right! Turn. Guard! By the left. Dress! Guard! Eyes front. Ship's company, stand at ease. Guard! Stand at ease.
We now welcome the Commanding Officer, Lieutenant Commander Mark Beecroft, onto the parade. Lieutenant Commander Mark Beecroft has had a long and diverse career in the Royal Australian Navy and the Australian Defence Force, having served as an infantryman in the Royal Australian Regiment and an airspace battle manager in the Royal Australian Air Force, in addition to his seagoing career in the Royal Australian Navy. Mark has spent the majority of his period ashore within the training environment, finding the experience of growing the next generation of Royal Australian Air Force and Royal Australian Navy warfighters at the Surveillance and Control Training Unit, the Bridge Training Faculty and the School of Maritime Warfare, some of the most rewarding in his career. Mark has served on numerous warships over the last 25 years, including His Majesty's Australian ships Darwin, Melbourne, Adelaide and Warramunga, and assumed the position of Commanding Officer New Ship Arafura in July 2024. Our Parade Commander Lieutenant Cameron Morgan will now report to his Commanding Officer Lieutenant Commander Mark Beecroft that the ship's company is formed and ready for the commissioning.
Ship's company, ho! Guard, ho! Ship's company and commissioning guard mustered for commissioning, sir.
Very good. Stand the guard and ship's company at ease.
Aye, aye, sir. Ship's company, stand at ease. Guard, stand at ease.
We now await the arrival of our host, Commander Australian Fleet, Rear Admiral Christopher Smith, AM, CSC, RAN. On arrival, Rear Admiral Smith will be met by Lieutenant Commander Beecroft, and Rear Admiral Smith will receive a general salute from the Guard and music honours titled Iolanthe. Ladies and gentlemen, we now await the arrival of our host, Commander Australian Fleet.
Ship's company, ho! Guard, ho!
Please stand.
Guard, general salute. Present arms. Guard, ho!
Please be seated.
Ship's company, stand at ease. Guard, stand at ease.
Ladies and gentlemen, our next official guest this morning is the Chief of the Royal Australian Navy, Vice Admiral Mark Hammond, AO RAN. On arrival, Vice Admiral will be met by Rear Admiral Smith and Lieutenant Commander Beecroft, and escorted to the dais where he'll receive a general salute from the Guard and music honours titled Bay of Biscay. I'll ask you all to stand, and all defence members in uniform are required to salute on the Guard Commander's orders.
Ship's company, ho! Guard, ho!
Please stand.
Guard, general salute. Present arms. Guard, ho!
Please be seated.
Ship's company, stand at ease. Guard, stand at ease.
Our next official guest this morning is the Minister for Veteran Affairs, Minister for Defence Personnel, representing the Deputy Prime Minister, the Honourable Matt Keogh MP. The Honourable Matt Keogh MP will be met by the Chief of the Royal Australian Navy, Vice Admiral Mark Hammond, AO RAN, and escorted to the dais where he'll receive a general salute from the Guard and music honours Duke of York.
Minister representing the Deputy Prime Minister, approaching, sir.
Ship's company, ho! Guard, ho!
Ladies and gentlemen, please stand.
Guard, general salute, present, arms. Guard, ho!
Please be seated.
Ship's company, stand at ease. Guard, stand at ease.
We now await the arrival of our guest of honour, His Excellency the Honourable Christopher Dawson, AC, APM, Governor of Western Australia. On arrival, His Excellency will be met by the Chief of the Royal Australian Navy, Vice Admiral Mark Hammond, AO RAN. His Excellency will receive a royal salute from the Guard and music honours of Advance Australia Fair. Again, I'll ask you all to stand, and all defence members in uniform are required to salute on the Guard Commander's orders. Once received on parade, the Guard Commander will report to His Excellency that the Commissioning Guard is ready for his inspection. His Excellency and the Chief of the Royal Australian Navy will inspect the Guard together. Ladies and gentlemen, we await the arrival of our guest of honour and reviewing officer, His Excellency the Honourable Christopher Dawson, AC, APM, Governor of Western Australia.
Governor of Western Australia approaching, sir.
Ship's company, ho! Guard, ho!
Ladies and gentlemen, please stand.
Guard, royal salute, present, arms. Guard, ho! Commissioning Guard for your inspection, Your Excellency, Lieutenant Commander reporting.
Please be seated.
Just the front rank here, sir, and then the front rank of the crew. Ship's company, stand at ease. Guard, stand at ease.
Ladies and gentlemen, I now invite the Honourable Matt Keogh MP, Minister for Veterans Affairs, Minister for Defence Personnel, and representing the Deputy Prime Minister to the lectern to address the parade.
Good morning, everybody. I thank the Whadjuk elders for their welcome to country this morning, and I acknowledge the Whadjuk people of the great Noongar nation of southwestern Australia as the traditional owners of the greater Fremantle Wallyup area. I also acknowledge all of those who have served and continue to serve our nation in uniform, and the families who support them and who join us here today. Your Excellency, the Honourable Chris Dawson, AC, APM, Governor of Western Australia, Nova Peris OAM, ship sponsor, Chief of Navy, Admiral Hammond, Magenta Marshall MLA, Member for Rockingham, representing the Honourable Paul Papalia MLA, Western Australian Minister for Defence Industries. Distinguished guests, the ship's company, friends, it is my pleasure to join you in celebrating the commissioning of HMAS Arafura into Australia's naval fleet, marking a major milestone of the Australian Government's implementation of the Surface Fleet Review. Arafura is the first of its class and was built in South Australia in Osborne. The second of its class, to be known as Air, has also been built and is in the water. The remaining 4 ships are under construction right now at Henderson Shipyard here in Western Australia, part of the Albanese government's commitment to securing the future of shipbuilding here in WA. This ship represents progress on our plan for Australia's workers to build Australia's vessels for the fleet faster than Australia has for decades, to ensure that the Navy has what it needs to secure our national interests at sea. I've had the pleasure of a tour, and I can tell you that it provides much better living quarters and amenities for our naval personnel to support our highly skilled people as they patrol and protect our coastline from Torbay Head, WA's most southern point, to Cape Londonderry in our north, and through the Arafura Sea, all the way around the eastern and southern coasts of Australia. Arafura will undertake maritime security work throughout Australia's waters and in the Southwest Pacific and Southeast Asia. These new capabilities have a greater range of 4,000 nautical miles and can perform roles that previously required numerous vessels. It may be called upon for humanitarian aid when disaster strikes, and it will help achieve the deeper and stronger defence relationships we are building with our friends and partners in the Indian Ocean and the Pacific to help secure a peaceful future for our region. To be part of the inaugural ship's company is very special, and I congratulate every member, along with your commanding officer, Lieutenant Commander Mark Beecroft. I know his family has a long history in Western Australia, and as a proud Fremantle local, today is a very special day for the Lieutenant Commander Beecroft and his family. I sincerely thank all of the Navy families who are here present with us today. Your patience, your support, and your willingness to share your loved one with our nation is essential for Australia's security. And the Albanese government and the Australian people are very grateful to you. Arafura arrived in Western Australia via the Great Australian Bight, and I'm told the ship handled the demanding stretch of water perfectly. That bodes well for its handling of the challenging waters off our northwest coast, for which Arafura's seakeeping and endurance makes it so well suited. I wish HMAS Arafura fair winds and following seas, and formally welcome the ship to the Australian Naval Fleet. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. I now invite Chief of the Royal Australian Navy, Vice Admiral Mark Hammond, AO RAN, to the lectern to make his welcome address.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Ships Company of Arafura, take a deep breath. I've got a 35-minute speech prepared for this morning. In all seriousness, I'd like to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land on which we meet today, the Whadjuk people of the greater Fremantle area, and pay my respects to their elders past, present and emerging, and add my respects to the ministers, to all Indigenous personnel who have served and those who are serving in the Australian Defence Force. I'd also like to acknowledge the 1,000 officers and sailors of the Royal Australian Navy who stand the watch at sea today while we are gathered here, serving in more than 20 Australian warships that are underway, serving the national interest. There's a large number of dignitaries with us today. I thank you all for being with us. A very warm welcome in particular to His Excellency, the Governor of Western Australia, the Honourable Chris Dawson, the Honourable Matt Keogh, Minister for Defence Personnel and Veterans Affairs, representing the Deputy Prime Minister. Also, I'd like to publicly acknowledge Mrs. Margarita Marshall, Magenta Marshall, the State Member for Rockingham. It's wonderful to have all three levels of government represented here. And Ms. Nova Paris, again, the ship sponsor of HMAS Arafura and Nova. This must indeed be a pretty special day for you. Other senior representatives of government, defence industry, Department of Defence, Australian Defence Force, thank you for being with us here today. The officers and sailors of Arafura, but most important, the family members who enable our service at sea. There is no power at sea for the Australian Defence Force without the love and support of our family members and friends at home. So thank you for everything you do to keep our sailors on the mission. Australia is a maritime trading nation. National security, therefore, begins with strong maritime security. The $650 billion annual income that flows through our ports, and the majority of the $1.7 trillion national economy, which is enabled by connectivity to the international financial system and the Internet of Things by those seabed cables, absolutely underscores the importance of strong maritime security in my mind. And whilst you see behind me another grey warship, what I see is a commitment to ensuring Australia's access to the sea during uncertain times with a capability that is a step change from its predecessor. This patrol boat, 1,600 tonnes, replaces the Fremantle class, which was only 300 tonnes. So to put that into context, this is a much more capable ship, longer range, capable of a greater number of missions, but it will be focused on border protection. It's fittingly named Arafura, after the sea that connects us to South Asia. It will have a role in international relations, particularly in partnering with our near neighbours throughout its life. And the spotted stingray that you see on the ship's crest is testament, I think, to strength, hidden strength that lies beneath the surface of this ship and beneath the uniform of the sailors and officers that crew HMAS Arafura. This is an important day for our Navy. This is a proud Navy day for all of us, but this is a really important day in the history of our nation. First of class, another class to serve under the Australian White Ensign, and I am sure that the men and women of Arafura, those on parade today and those who will follow in their wake, will do us all very, very proud. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Enjoy the ceremony.
Thank you very much, sir. It now gives me much pleasure to invite Arafura's Commanding Officer, Lieutenant Commander Mark Beecroft, to the lectern to address the parade.
Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, family and friends, and above all, the proud crew of this magnificent vessel. Today marks a momentous occasion as we commission the first offshore patrol vessel and the first warship to be named for the Arafura Sea. A name that speaks not only to our maritime heritage, but also to the enduring bonds between the Navy and the people of the regions it serves. To the crew, you're the heart and soul of this ship. Your professionalism and unwavering devotion to duty have brought us to this day. From the long hours of preparation to the countless challenges we've overcome, you have shown what it means to serve with honour and integrity. I thank each and every one of you for your positive attitude, your hard work, and the for the trust you place in each other and in me. When we sail, let us remember that Arafura is more than the name on our hull. It is a symbol of connection. Our mission is not only to defend our national interests, but to build a spirit of cooperation and support with the people of the Arafura Sea. We will work together, fostering mutual respect and cooperation. Let us carry the name Arafura with pride, and let our actions reflect the defence values of service, courage, respect, integrity and excellence. Together, we'll write a new chapter in the story of our Navy and our nation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mark. To commence our prayers and blessings to all those who will serve in Arafura, the parade commander will prepare the parade.
Ship's company, ho! Guard, ho! Ship's company, off! Caps! Ship's company, stand at ease. Guard, stand at ease.
I now invite Senior Chaplain James Sutherland and Maritime Spiritual Wellbeing Officer Laura Dunsmore to lead us in a prayer for Arafura, followed by the singing of the naval hymn and the blessing of Arafura. This will be followed by the ceremony of hoisting of colours, which is where the Australian White Ensign and the commissioning pennant will receive a blessing by Senior Chaplain James Sutherland.
Well, good morning. It is a great honour and privilege for us to be here. And ever since humans have put to sea, mariners have felt a deep connection between their spirituality and the waters upon which they sailed. This part of the commissioning service seeks to honour and continue that connection. And as such, we are about to lead you in prayer from a Christian faith perspective. However, we recognise that there are those gathered here today and online that might come from a different faith or spirituality. As I pray, can I encourage you to take this opportunity to reflect on our words and give thanks in a way that is appropriate for you. Please join with me as I lead you in a prayer for the ship on behalf of the ship's company. Loving God, help us to live in peace and harmony as we serve our nation and as members of this ship's company. May we be a force for excellence and grant us a willing spirit to fulfill whatever duties may be given us. Strengthen our faith that we all help one another in living Defence's values of selfless service to our nation and to one another. Courage to place the interests of our nation and its people ahead of our own. May we be a force that respects and values others and always treats others with dignity and compassion. May we be a force for excellence and a community that strives to be the best we can be in all circumstances. In Jesus' name I pray, Amen. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I hope and trust that you have brought your singing voices today with you as Petty Officer musician Christy Cameron and the Navy Band will now lead us in a rendition of the naval hymn, Eternal Father, Strong to Save. Please stand and sing with us together. You will find the words in your booklets.
Eternal Father, strong to save, whose arm around the restless wave, who bids the mighty ocean deep its own appointed limits keep. Oh, hear us when we cry to thee, for those in peril on the sea. O Trinity of love and power, our brethren shield in danger's hour, from rock and tempest, fire and foe, God
Thank you. Please be seated. I would now like to invite Maritime Spiritual Wellbeing Officer Laura Dunsmore, who is a member of the HMAS Sterling chaplaincy team and has been providing chaplaincy support to the crews of our offshore patrol vessels, to provide a blessing for the ship. Thank you, Laura.
Thank you. We dedicate and set apart this ship as a sign of God, a sign of duty towards our sovereign and our country in the sight of God.
Thank you, Laura. We will now commence the ceremony of the hoisting of the colours. Please join with me in prayerful reflection as I pray a blessing over the commissioning pennant and the Australian White Ensign. Blessed are you, Lord God of all creation, for you call women and men to live together in community and to work together in fellowship and service. By your blessing, may this Australian White Ensign and commissioning pennant be a symbol of unity and friendship to those who serve in this ship above which they fly. May they live in peace and harmony. May they walk in truth and justice. And may they know love in their hearts and finally come to the fullness of eternal life. Amen.
Thank you, Senior Chaplain Sutherland and Maritime Spiritual Wellbeing Officer Dunsmore. That brings us to the end of our prayers and blessing. The commissioning proper will now commence. I ask our Parade Commander, Lieutenant Morgan, to ready the parade.
Ship's company, ho! Guard, ho! Ship's company, on, caps! Ship's company, stand at ease. Stand easy, square away, caps. Guard, stand at ease.
Commander Australian Fleet Rear Admiral Christopher Smith, AM CSC RAN, will now present Lieutenant Commander Mark Beecroft Arafura's commissioning order and direct him to read it. He will also present Lieutenant Commander Beecroft with Arafura's commissioning Australian White Ensign and commissioning pennant.
HMAS Arafura Commissioning Order. The Chief of Navy, Vice Admiral Mark Hammond, Officer of the Order of Australia, Royal Australian Navy, has directed His Majesty's Australian ship Arafura be commissioned at Victoria Quay, Fremantle on the 28th day of June 2025. Consequently, you are to proceed to commission the ship for service in the Royal Australian Navy in accordance with this order and any orders and instructions issued by higher authorities. On commissioning, His Majesty's Australian ship Arafura will be under the complete authority of Commander Australian Fleet. You are to bring to my notice any dissatisfaction you have with regard to the state of preparedness, discipline and welfare of the ship's company or with the general state of the ship. May God's blessing be upon the ship and her company hereby entrusted into your command, and may your joint endeavour to uphold the finest traditions of the Royal Australian Navy in the service of His Majesty the King be met with success and good fortune. Given under my hand this 28th day of June 2025, co-signed by myself, the Commanding Officer, and by Rear Admiral Chris Smith, AM, CSM, Commander Australian Fleet.
Lieutenant Commander Beecroft will now hand over Arafura's Australian White Ensign and commissioning pennant to his ensign party in preparation of the commissioning. Ladies and gentlemen, we now wait the order, 5 minutes to commissioning.
Very good. Ship's company, ho! Guard, ho! Ship's company, 8 out, turn! Guard, 8 out, turn!
We recognise the contribution of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander veterans and serving members with a prelude to the Australian National Anthem from Seaman musician Grant Rosell. This performance of Advance Australia Fair acknowledges the contributions of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people throughout the history of Australia's defence with ceremonial connections through language and song from the didgeridoo. It honours the women and men who have served in Australia's Defence Force, those who continue to serve Australia and those yet to serve. Our anthem will be performed by vocalist Petty Officer musician Christy Cameron. Shortly, I'll ask you all to stand as we now approach the commissioning itself, when the Australian National Anthem will be played as the Australian White Ensign, commissioning pennant and Australian National Flag are slowly raised to officially commission Arafura. Ladies and gentlemen, we now wait the order, 1 minute to commissioning.
Very good.
Would you all please stand now for the Australian National Anthem and the commissioning of Arafura. I ask that all Defence members in uniform salute on the Guard Commander's orders during the playing of the National Anthem.
Make it so! Guard. General salute. Present. Arms.
Australians, oh let us rejoice, for we are one and free. We've golden soil and wealth for toil. Our home is good by sea. Our land abounds in nature's gifts of beauty, rich and rare. In history's page, let every stage advance Australia fair. In joyful strains, then let us sing that goes Australia fair.
Guard. Hope.
Please be seated.
HMAS Arafura. 8 out. Turn. Guard. 8 out. Turn.
Ladies and gentlemen, His Majesty's Australian ship Arafura is now commissioned. The crew of HMAS Arafura will now cruise ship and board their workplace and home on the high seas for the first time. Cruise ship is a form of salute, originally intended as a visual sign that your intent was peaceful, and with the ship's company on deck or in days of old, this meant that your guns were not manned. The ship's company will cruise ship to the music of the official quick march of the Royal Australian Navy, titled Royal Australian Navy, and it was composed to celebrate the occasion and Australia's history when the Royal Australian Navy Fleet first entered Sydney Harbour on the 10th of October 1913. The Quick March was written by Australian band leader Alec Lithgow.
HMAS Arafura will cruise ship. HMAS Arafura, outwards, turn. HMAS Arafura will advance in single file. Quick! HMAS Arafura, outwards, turn!
Piping the side originated in the days of sail when captains visiting one another at sea were hoisted on board in a net or basket, particularly if rough weather prevented the use of ladders. Piping was necessary in setting taut and hoisting away the cargo net or basket containing the boarding officer. This established the custom of piping the officer alongside and over the gangway. The use of the boatswain's call in English ships can be traced back with certainty to the days of the Crusades in 1248 AD. The expression to pipe is the directive to make the sound on the boatswain's call and to give the spoken order that may qualify it. Some pipes, however, are orders themselves and do not require any verbal addition. The commanding officer of HMAS Arafura, Lieutenant Commander Mark Beecroft, will now be piped on board to join his crew for the first time. HMAS Arafura is now fully crewed, and to mark this significant chapter in the history of the Royal Australian Navy, the men and women before you will perform the very old customary method of greeting called cheer ship.
Parade Commander, prepare ship's company to cheer ship.
Aye, aye, sir! HMAS Arafura, off, caps!
HMAS Arafura will cheer ship. Hip, 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 hooray! Hip, 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 hooray! Hip, 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 hurrah!
HMAS Arafura, on, caps. HMAS Arafura, stand at ease. Stand easy, square away, caps.
Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes the commissioning ceremony of His Majesty's Australian ship Arafura. I now invite our guest of honour, His Excellency, the Honourable Christopher Dawson, AC, APM, Governor of Western Australia, accompanied by the Minister for Veterans Affairs, Minister for Defence Personnel representing the Deputy Prime Minister, the Honourable Matt Keogh, MP, the Chief of the Royal Australian Navy, Vice Admiral Mark Hammond, AO, RAN, and the Commander Australian Fleet, Rear Admiral Christopher Smith, AM, CSE, RAN, to the dais to receive a royal salute from the Guard and music honours of Advance Australia Fair. I'll ask you all to stand, and all defence members in uniform are required to salute on the Guard Commander's orders.
HMAS Arafura, ho! Guard, royal salute, present, arms. Guard, ho!
Please remain standing for the departure of our official guests, the Governor of Western Australia, Chief of Navy, Commander Australian Fleet, and the Honourable Matt Keogh. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Please be seated. To finish this morning's ceremony, our parade commander, Lieutenant Cameron Morgan, will now give the order to march off the commissioning guard. The music of Waltzing Matilda forms the official musical salute for the Prime Minister of Australia and is performed regularly as the march past for Navy ceremonies. It acknowledges our service to the people of Australia and our commitment to protecting Australia's national interests.
March off the commissioning guard. Aye, aye, sir. Guard will move to the right and form file. Right, turn. Guard by the centre. Quick.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. That concludes today's ceremony. I now invite you to join us for refreshments and the cutting of the commissioning cake, which will take place upstairs in the Fremantle Passenger Terminal. Thank you and good morning.
Ship's company, turning forward, dismiss!